Okay, welcome back, everyone. I know some of you are still eating. I would encourage you to do that. I was just eating the cake. It was wonderful, really, really good. Uh, we'll get back into things now. Okay, now please join me in welcoming to the stage Patrick Lozier, Vice President Atlantic BDC, to introduce our speakers, and I guess me.
Good afternoon. Wow, what an amazing turnout. Once again, my name is Patrick Lozier. I'm Vice President for the Atlantic for BDC. On behalf of my team and on behalf of BDC, thank you for joining us today. Um, thank you Halifax Chamber of Commerce also. Thanks for having us today. Small Business Week is an opportunity for us to celebrate entrepreneurs. In a few minutes, we will feature a panel discussion to share insights, practical strategies, and actionable advice for your small business. On the panel, we have two small business owner, Ossama Nasrallah, owner of Arbor Watercraft, Sea Halifax, and Nova Glamping. Sorry about that. We also have Heather Rankin, co-owner of Obladi. Um, Joining them is my colleague, Russ Hobson. Russ is the business center manager here in Halifax. At BDC, we've been organizing this small business week for more than 40 years now. It's our way to of recognizing everything you do and your vital contribution to Canada's economy and to our communities. As part of the Small Business Week, we hold dozens of activities across the country to celebrate entrepreneurs and give business owner a chance to network as well. So to reach as many people as possible, we offer these events both in person but also online as well. So our theme for this year is let's talk solutions for today's business challenges. So what do we mean by this? What are the challenges? Don't need to tell you that the Canadian businesses continue to facing challenge with labor shortage. We've mentioned at the table a little bit earlier, labor shortage, high inflation, high interest rate. And that's a big reason why we believe so strongly in this important week. So we can all together learn a little bit more from each other. At BDC, we are committed to helping you navigate your way through these challenges and grow your business as well. So we work hand in hand with entrepreneurs like you every day to find flexible financing, but also to offer expert advice for your business. So I hope you're gonna enjoy today's panel. Um, with that, let's move to the main event. Now it's my pleasure to invite Patrick Sullivan back to the stage to moderate the panel. Also invite Osama, Heather, and Russ to the stage as well. So please welcome them.
Good afternoon. There we go. That's nice and loud. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, I guess I have armrests on this too, don't I? Well, it's exciting. Um, nice to see everybody, and thank you very much to our panelists for joining us today. I'm going to probably start out with I'm going to start out with Osama. I I do hate sort of asking everybody the same question, but I'm going to do it for a couple of the questions, and then I'm going to get into individual questions if that's okay. Now, I know we have a pretty high bar here because if any of you were lucky to see Michelle Obama speak last night, um, she was a pretty good panelist. So we'll see how you all do, with that measure coming in. Osama. We'll start with you because I'm sure you can reach that bar.
And you
So
you can call me Obama if you want.
okay,
Yep.
that's right. Osama Obama, very close. That's true. Uh, what advice would you provide to someone who's considering starting their own business? And what are some of the hurdles that you may have had to overcome early?
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Patrick. And it's so funny we're just chatting about, capital funding. That's one of the biggest hurdles businesses are facing nowadays, trying to enter the market. You'll find a lot of people with a lot of ideas, a lot. And when we're talking about small business here, we're talking more about opening a retail store, opening a restaurant, opening a seasonal, not as much as a startup in a way. So funding is becoming a big issue, especially with high interest rates, as we can see out there. Inflation, employees, finding and hiring employees is a big one. But the advice to starting a business, it's the time to start a business. A place like Nova Scotia, where it's growing, it's just a perfect timing. And red tape is still there. Businesses will face. I don't remember a time where, when Omar, my business partner, I launched the harbor watercraft, everyone say, no way you will get approved to be on the harbor, and red tape was there. But with time now, there's six other businesses next to us on the harbor, so things are growing. Government are becoming more open, government agencies such as Build Nova Scotia, even Parks Canada with George's Island, other agencies are becoming more open to small business, and they're realizing it's a service, it's a customer experience to bring people down the waterfront. So this is the time in a place like Halifax, and I tell people you don't have to invent something new. We're still a lot of years behind other provinces. Like when you look at BC, when you look at the Vancouver waterfront, we see things we're like, wow, we can bring this here. We don't have to invent it from nothing. But it's really ideas are out there, and Halifax people are supportive, and this is the time to launch a business or open a new one.
Great. Okay, that's a good endorsement already. Heather, I'll go to you. What advice would you provide to someone who's considering starting their own business? And do you have any tips that you wish you'd been warned about?
Mm, I I think one of the best things that you can do for yourself and I think your business by extension is to take care of yourself and your health and your time. I think when we go into building our businesses, it is driven by energy and emotion and passion. And then that's great. That gets it off the ground. It gets you through those hard times that Osama was talking about. But you will need something else beyond that when the business gets going, and I think that is discipline. And I think in order to conjure up that discipline, you need rest, you need health, and you need time for yourself. Um, I think for us, we were obviously opening a restaurant, and wish someone had told me a little bit more about the red tape. And because when you do go in for your permits and your inspections and things like that, you necessarily need to be almost 100% there anyway, and you need to be prepared for pretty significant setbacks at that stage, whether that is fire safety, especially in old buildings, like, they could really hit you with something that you didn't consider at all that would require a complete refurbishment. So just being aware of those, I think, those massive setbacks that can occur quite late in the process is something I wish I had known. Um, Lots of other things, but I'm sure Russ probably has some other things to share.
And we'll have more questions, don't worry. So, Russ, over to you, and I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. Uh, well, maybe it's the same direction, actually. I mean, you haven't started a business, but what advice would you provide to someone that's considering starting their own business from BDC?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. So welcome everyone. Great turnout. We love celebrating Small Business Week this week, but it's always Small Business Week for us at BDC. And we certainly are involved with a lot of startups, right? With my small business team that's here and some that are back in the office. So um, first of all, congratulations. You're starting a business. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of hard work. Um, and it's tough to find that balance. It really is. But congratulations. I guess my next piece of advice is buckle up because it's quite a journey, right? And I know you've all been down that path. What we see on our end at BDC, obviously from a financing perspective and an expert advice perspective, is that you never really can start too early with your planning and making your connections. There's a lot of organizations out there, BDC being one of them, a lot of economic development agencies that are in it for you, right? And take the time, plan ahead, and make those connections because ultimately it's much more difficult after the fact. Um, From BDC's perspective, I guess speaking to lending, because I know access to credit is always top of mind for startups. I'll speak specifically to BDC, what we look for. It's obviously a very thorough business plan. To Osama's point, you don't have to recreate the wheel, right? I mean, you've got a good business here for Halifax and Nova Scotia. We want to hear from you. Um, Other finer points to keep in mind is that, as a small business, you're so closely attached to it personally, right? Take care of your personal wherewithal, your personal credit, right? It's not easy to do, but it's so closely aligned with the small business. And last and certainly not least, I mean, there's always investment levels required, right? So those are upfront conversations that we love having, and I speak for my colleagues and other organizations, is that we're very transparent, and we'll be very open and forthcoming with what's required, and we love having those conversations. So
That's great. Thank you. Heather, I'll jump back to you. So we do a business conditions report at the Halifax Chamber, and our latest report showed us that Halifax businesses are some of the most optimistic in the country. Um, there's a long list of challenges for businesses, but why do you think Halifax business owners are optimistic? Are you optimistic?
I remember, yeah, I got this question yesterday, and I was like, I am optimistic, and I know a lot of my peers are also optimistic as well. But I do, and I've been back in Nova Scotia now for about 10 years, but 12 years rather. Um, but I remember coming back from larger cities and noticing right away that people were a little bit lighter and a bit more, it's kind of folksy to say, but down to earth and a little bit more real. And I can't really pretend to know where that comes from, but I feel like it probably has something to do with the fact that kind of a geographically isolated part of the country. The work tended to be quite manual. There's a lot of artists in our community, musicians, storytellers. And I think we kind of developed that way of living to entertain ourselves and communicate. And I feel like that's still running through our veins a little bit and keeps us like buoyed up a little bit when times get tough with business, and they do. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Osama, kind of a similar question. I mean, I've known you for a number of years. I think of you as very optimistic, and you've opened a number of businesses. What makes you optimistic about Halifax and business growth?
I would say it's the people, really. Nova Scotians, they're always passionate to support a small business, a new business opening. It's funny enough, I was just in Colorado actually for a glamping conference, and for our project Nova Glamping. If you don't know it, we have a small 8 acres island that we have geodomes on it, and the conversation was there. How do you keep your Airbnb reviews at 4.97 stars? Because they're struggling there, and I was like, it's the people. No matter how things goes wrong, people always understanding, they're always supportive. But we were chatting about how people review in the US compared to Canada, the different kind of reviews too. It's a big market, but the support we get from the businesses, the landlords, for in our mind, for example, Build Nova Scotia, where you become a partner with them once you have your business on the waterfront. So all these really builds that passion to you. No matter the hurdles you might face throughout, you always know there's a support coming from somewhere. And that's when we say support, and we're not talking financial as much as business support in many ways, even if trying a product or going out or supporting in any way. Yeah.
Okay, great. Russ, to go in a slightly different direction, we were talking with Darian about the CDAP program, which, to be honest, I probably should know more about. But can you tell us a little bit about the program, or some of what you might know and how it might apply to some of the businesses or small businesses in the room?
yeah, so certainly happy to jump into that. I mean, to the questions, I love Halifax. It's a community, and I think that's one of the reasons we have such optimism here, is that we're all looking out for one another in a sense. We live here, we work here. And I guess in that same vein, I guess the federal government is trying to support all of us too, right? And that's where the CDAP program, so the Canadian Digital Adoption Program, comes into play. And it's an opportunity for all businesses across the country, to boost their digital technology space, right? And we've talked earlier about labor shortages and challenges and how technology can play a role in that and supporting your business. But ultimately, the CDAP program it's a fabulous multi-year program, multi-billion dollars. It's a way to inject a digital plan into your workplace, right? Not necessarily having the expertise, because it's certainly not my expertise, but there is expertise out there to support you with that roadmap. There's a grant of 15,000 to support you to do that. And the aim, of course, is to see our Canadian businesses move further along the digital river, I guess, in terms of where we're going. I mean, we all know, we've all seen the stats, right, in terms of our productivity and output. And it's one way for the federal government to support small businesses with that. So it's a fantastic program. We talk a lot about it with our clients and with businesses that we cross paths with, and always willing to have it again later today. So yeah, it's a great program.
Okay, and Darian said that you can start the application now and have it approved in 25 minutes. Now, I don't want anybody to do that. Okay, just let's wait till after the lunch before we do that. Osama, I'm going to come back to you. The Amazing Race. Did anybody see the Amazing Race finale? Okay, one person. I saw it too. Come on. I mean, geez, you got to watch TV the odd time. Uh, uh, the Amazing Race. It's a television show. It was on CTV. And Osama, tell us about the Amazing Race finale, of which your business was a part.
Absolutely. So that was, I would say, one of our best events we ever got involved in. The Amazing Race people reach out to us just as an idea early in early last this year to Omar and I, just saying, "Do you think that's possible to do a jet ski race on the harbor?" And we're like, "Oh, absolutely. We're the one who can make it." So they flew up from BC, from Ontario, different executives, and we met with them and we said, you know what, we're gonna make it the jet ski race as one of our final challenges. Team worked very hard for over 3 weeks on the harbor, and Amazing Race is a big show, so safety is a biggest thing. So they used to fly people all over just to check, the safety and everything. The harbor in May is a bit chilly, so we're working in, dropping buoys on the harbor, and all these buoys, you might see it normally. These ones had like 3 GoPros that can take a video from everywhere. Challenges. We looked at the wind and everything. We did a race trail for them where it's going to be. Then the next day was a very windy day, so it changed everything. So we had to act quickly. But yeah, we had a huge, big staff. At that time, we couldn't say it's the Amazing Race. We said, it's just a marathon game happening here. But it was very very exciting. It was very they loved it because it wasn't just you're on a jet ski going around. You were on a jet ski. There's a track, and you're gonna finish it in a minute and 15 seconds, and everyone would reach a minute and 20 seconds and they go back, do it all over again. And these are all like people who've been through things in life. So it was a really cool challenge. And to see us be part of it, it's big for us in a way.
Did you get much feedback?
We got a really good
Yeah.
feedback on it. And it's funny because we thought it's going to be way longer when you watch the TV, because that was like a full 2 hours, and the team's getting lost to find where our space on the waterfront, and boats bringing him back and forth. But we got good feedback about how it went that day, so that was really good.
Okay. Heather, to jump back to you, although we all want to forget about the pandemic, I remember what a wonderful job Obladi did launching a charcuterie board, which was something that was a bit unusual because it was takeaway. And I think eventually there was wine, but yes, wine. So if I have it right, can you tell us what prompted you to think of this idea, and how did it go, and how did it impact your staff?
Well, what prompted us was an emergency situation, and we didn't get a lot of. There was no round tabling or anything. It was we had to do something or close. We knew that we didn't want to be cooking and trying to deliver that and that sort of thing. We also knew that we wanted to retain all of our staff. They were interested in getting serve, which was available to them at the time. So we needed to get very creative with how we were going to utilize them so that they would not work too many hours. They'd still be qualified for the serve. Anyway, what we decided was we would do these beautiful little packages of, obladi in at that time, a little paper bag. And it was cheese and charcuterie with a bottle of wine. And I think there was a candle in there to sort of like recreate the ambience at home, and some notes on all of the wines and cheeses that we were putting in there. We're also working with local cheese producers. So Ciro Comencini in the Valley, an Italian cheesemaker, and various other producers. So that was really great to be able to do that. And then we just made a whole new sort of business plan. We turned the wine bar into kind of a production facility slash assembly line. And our cooks became delivery drivers, our servers became cheese slicers and wrappers, and other people became dispatch phone people. But it was very exciting, and it was very busy. And what started out as a little bit of, here, come get something for you at home. Uh, what we noticed right away is that people were using them as gifts. So they weren't buying them for themselves, they were getting them to send to other people. So very quickly, we started doing little gift notes, and it has turned into a very profitable gift box program that we still do today. And the pandemic was what kicked that off. So, yeah.
You're not thankful for the pandemic in any way.
No, I wouldn't say thankful,
No, okay.
no, but we did get a good idea.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, I don't think anybody is. Russ, we'll come back to you. What separates BDC from other financial institutions?
Yeah, I mean, separates, I think BDC is a pretty unique organization out there, right? I mean, we're the only bank for Canadian entrepreneurs, which means a lot to us. That's what we sleep, that's what we eat, that's what we breathe. As a development bank, we pride ourselves on welcoming I guess, the challenges that we hear from our business owners every day, and we take a lot of responsibility, right, to work really closely and find a solution for whatever that challenge may be. Um, so sure, we're well known for our flexible financing and expert advice that we bring to our entrepreneurs. But we know we're just one piece of this puzzle, right? There's a lot of great organizations out there, and being well connected in Halifax and across the country, we can certainly help guide, right, to these other organizations that are just as helpful, right, in their own right. And I think it's a collective effort to bring you to your success. And we're just happy to play a role in that. And yeah, that's what we do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Osama, as an entrepreneur and a newcomer to Nova Scotia, although not a new newcomer, what advice would you give to other immigrants who are interested in starting a business in Nova Scotia? And are there some ways that the chamber or the business community can support them in growing their business?
Absolutely. And that's a big thing in Nova Scotia, When you go to register for a business or open a business, they don't ask you where you're from or where you who you are. And that's the best thing. I remember when we first launched our business back in 2018, we're two international students at that time. We didn't even have our work permit yet. We didn't have, we went to the bank. They said, sorry, we can't give you the money. You're not a permanent resident, but we're able to get the jet skis under auto loans at that time, 12, 15% interest, but we're like, we're going to open a business. How can we do that? But it's really that's the best thing about Nova Scotia. You never asked who you are, and for immigrants, there's a lot of programs now that can support opening a business. When it comes to what immigration association does with the chamber, with different programs. Even we started everything really at St. Mary's at the Entrepreneurship Center, and that was a great support for us at that time. But for immigrants, it's really they come with a lot of skills. They come with a lot of knowledge from outside, and it's different here because the biggest thing here you're gonna adopt to what's the business community look, and yes, bringing new ideas for sure, but you're gonna really understand how things works, and that was a big thing we did when I worked for the bank, and I know BDC does a lot. Is really that advice that's very very important because some immigrants comes funding might not be the biggest issue. The biggest issue is understanding how to buy a business or how to operate a business. So my advice would be for them is always look for the right advice, look for the right people. Support is out there. People are willing to help. Even if you went and met with a landlord to talk about the space that you find for lease or whatever, but you need to take that step. No one is going to hold your hand and take you. You gotta be out there. You gotta knock on doors. You gotta ask questions and do your research. In a community like Nova Scotia. So that's very important, and we're seeing it more and more through immigrants coming and opening. In the past, immigration was a lot. Oh, you're coming, open your cuisine or open your restaurant. There was a lot in that focus. Where now it's really changing, and you even see car dealerships, you see car rental, you see other stuff. That wow, that's amazing. But again, they come with vision, and it's really the mission that makes a difference here. On what's your mission, what do you want to accomplish in Nova Scotia, and a lot loves it just because they believe this is the place where they can live, have their kids, raise their kids, and have a good family. So it's always the right place to open a business, I would say.
Okay, great. Thank you. Heather, you are a sommelier with an award-winning wine bar on Barrington Street, in case anybody was looking for wine tonight, who sits on multiple regulatory tasting panels, speaks on wine, spirits, and wine, spirit, and hospitality conferences. You have a passion for wine. You and I were talking about it before lunch. Can you speak to some of the advantage or disadvantages to turning your passion into a business? Does it change your passion?
It does change your passion. I think it does. Like I was saying before, I think you need that passion, that gas, to get you through these initial hurdles, because there will be hurdles there to test your idea. I think that's good to actually have your idea stress tested and to make sure that it's strong enough to push through. But your passion is, I find for wine specifically, I don't have a lot of time to really enjoy my love of wine. I'm kind of busy, so I don't get to enjoy my passions as much. But I would say, yeah, you can expect your passions to kind of shift too. So I feel my passion has kind of shifted a little bit more toward hospitality, service, and quality and care and people. And I do love wine, and I love it as a thing and a drink, and I love learning about it and visiting wine regions. But that my passion is more about taking care of the people that work for me, looking after our guests well, and putting the best possible products in front of people. I really do feel passionate about those things. So I think it can shift. And that's all I have to say about passion, really.
No, no, I think that's great. That you sound passionate. That's good. Uh, Russ, jumping back to you, and I know I'm jumping around a little bit from entrepreneurs to the folks that help entrepreneurs. But as the manager of the Entrepreneurship Center for BDC, you've been supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs for nearly 20 years. You 20 years, really? Okay, well there you go. What kind of advice would you give entrepreneurs today who may be experiencing credit-related matters or struggling with rising interest rates or seeking financing solutions?
Yeah, so good question. So I grew up in a family business, back home. So I see all the challenges, the risks, the rewards that come with that. Yeah, and I've been at BDC for 18 years, so I've seen a lot in my time, right? The good, the bad, and everything in between. Um, so I guess running a business can be very rewarding. We all know that, but it's not straightforward. It's not linear. It's very challenging, and it's certainly more complex today than it has been in the last X number of years. I mean, you've got the labor shortages, you've got pressures from cost, you've got inflation, COVID over the last 3, 4 years. So there's been a lot that's been dealt out there, and that certainly has impacted a lot of businesses, right? So I'd say, I guess one piece of advice around that is, I guess I got two. So one would be, understanding the financial health of your business, right? And knowing where you are today, right? And we see a lot at BDC, and some may not necessarily have that deep understanding of where they are and what they can weather, whether it's a natural disaster or what have you, right? But have an understanding of where you stand, because then you're better prepared to have those conversations, whether that's with BDC or one of the other great lenders that are out there, right? And I guess the second piece that I would add to this, difficult time, is that, I guess, be willing, be able to surround yourself with others that have different skill set and expertise that you may not have. We're very good, as Heather alluded to, we're very passionate and we're very good at what it is that got us into business. But, truthfully, we can't be great at everything, right? And I raise my hand to that. And I think if you can surround yourself with some people that can support you, you're better off tomorrow than you are today. So
Just to follow up on that, just a quick answer from you. Would you say it's better to talk to a banker early or late?
yeah, I meant to mention that. So thank you. Early, of course, right? And I know it's if you get into a really difficult time, right? And cash flow, working capital, whatever the challenge may be, right? And you're fearful perhaps of what the conversation might be with a lender, right? I'll throw BDC out there. What does that look like? I'd say it's always much better just to be upfront, be transparent. We're in it for you, right? At the end of the day, and I think all the lenders are. We want to see you be successful. Um, and I guess if we have those earlier conversations, the better off we are to help divert or change or alter whatever it is the difficulty.
All right, let's stop talking about money. Let's get on to more important things. So, Heather, um, employees and employee recruitment and retention. As a business owner or manager, what are some of the strategies or incentives that you may use to recruit and retain your employees?
Well, I we are talking a little bit over lunch about this, and I just try to think about myself and what I like to be doing and not like to be doing, and how I like to be treated. And I just try to think that way. I What we try to do at Obladi is give people portable, useful life skills, whether we place a big emphasis on education. So, as Patrick mentioned, I am a sommelier. We do have a few sommeliers on staff as well. And so, every front of house person that comes on, they go through a fairly rigorous wine education program. And I test them once a month. We sit down, we taste everything. They need to be experts on absolutely everything that we serve, and they're into wine. That's why they come to us, and they enjoy that, and they leave, a little bit better off than maybe when they arrived, as far as wine is concerned. I also Christian and myself, my brother who opened Obledi with me, we both come from professional backgrounds, and neither of us worked in service before, not in a restaurant. I never carried a tray, really. I do now, but I think we opened Obladi very similar. We treated it as a professional organization. We documented everything, uh, very clear communication. We treat people like professionals there. We have a really big focus on respect and support. And I think that speaks to people. I think they're like everybody else. They want to come to a place to work where they feel proud to work. They want to have dignified work. They don't want to be scrubbing toilets at 2 a.m. I don't. I don't think anybody here wants to. So we just make sure that they don't have to do that stuff. That they have dignified work. They're paid well. And we treat them with respect, and we treat them like professionals. And I do think that that helps with retention, particularly in such a transient industry like the food and beverage and restaurant industry.
You mentioned your brother, Christian. So it must be important to find good partners. Is it a good idea to start a business with a sibling or?
Um, I think you get with a sibling, you get built-in trust, and trust is huge. So there's that. But I think what it comes down to more is about, and I think Russ was touched on it earlier, is it about balancing your strengths and your weaknesses? And Christian's very strong in certain areas, and in the areas that he's not, I tend to have strengths in those areas. So we do balance each other out quite well, and we communicate quite openly and frankly. Too frankly sometimes. But yeah, the business partnership is a very important one. But I think it's more important that there is trust there, and that you complement and support one another in what you're good at.
Okay, great. Thank you. Osama, back to you. In March, the Halifax Chamber hosted our inaugural Surge conference on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. A big takeaway from our speakers at the conference was for business leaders to lead with inclusion. What are some ways that you lead with inclusion, and how does it benefit your business?
Absolutely. And that's a big thing we do, you know. Omar and I were both immigrant, you know. Omar comes from Egypt, I come from Lebanon. And the team we built, we have a young team, very young team. with the older being 29 years old. And when I say 29 years old, all these young people are boat captains and commercial boat captains that we help train and educate in our business. But inclusion is very important for us too, where we're able to look outside what's available. A lot of times when it comes to small business, especially seasonal businesses, you get a lot of wage subsidies in the summer from Canada Summer Job, from others. But actually, these wage subsidies, they're great for the business, but at the same time, they require you only to hire Canadian people. So you can't hire anyone who's not a permanent resident or not a citizenship, which makes it harder because you have all these programs that you want to use. But if you were to hire someone other than Canadian, so how do you balance in a way? And that's where, from a business perspective, that's where you come up with a strategy, with a policy to be able to how to attract people to work on the harbor that they never, we have a lot of people from India, for example. But a lot of these people don't apply for jobs with us, and the reason is because they think they don't have an experience on the water. But for us, no, we can teach you that. But it's really how to attract them more and show them that what, this is something you can learn. This is something you can do, like any of us. When Omar and I started this business, we never really owned a jet ski before or a boat. We started from zero experience, or like we'll learn as we go, and that's where we keep investing in our team. But really having that open door policy to be able to attract people and show them that they can be part of this team and they can do a job that someone was born on a lake can do is an easy thing. So that's one thing we try to always act in the inclusive way to attract people.
That's great. Thank you. Well, we're running out of time, so I'm just going to go across the panel and ask Russ, are there any parting comments that you have during Small Business Week for our small business audience?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't so much a week for BDC. It's a week to really celebrate all of you, right? And we all have our own unique stories and businesses and challenges and opportunities. And I think that's what makes this great, right? Because everyone's got a different story, and I think sharing that amongst the audience here and amongst other peer sets, it only takes us higher, right? And so thanks for including us in Small Business Week, and look forward to our next adventure.
Okay, great. Speaking of adventures, Osama, so any advice that you may provide people, and are the jet skis still in the water?
Yes, the jet skis are still, they're going out tomorrow, but we're closed for the season. But really, the advice is, if you have a business idea, if you have a business vision, go for it. I was just telling you, I launched a restaurant in August, in Kaji, the national park, where who goes all the way 2 hours to Kaji to open a restaurant? But it's really, the idea came from the passion of seasonal business. When you have a passion about something, and I've been having passion about seasonal business, the industry doesn't mean much as much as you're willing to learn and to do the work. Um, uh, Small business is hard. It's tough. It's ups and downs. We worked with our partners at BDC this year to do our biggest investment on a speedboat. Omar and I had this dream. We want to show people the whole harbor in 50 minutes. So invested in this 12-seat boat that can show 500 horsepower, that can show you all the way from Bedford to McNabb's Island in 50 minutes, and for $50 only. So that was the goal. But then you get the weather, where we got more rainy days than ever this year. We all of June we opened for 7 days out of the whole June. So the weather plays. So, and that's your expectation on paper. You're like, wow, this is gonna be the best summer, the biggest investment. We're already doing well, and then the weather changes everything. Now you're working on refunds more than earnings. But that's small business. You're gonna keep that positive attitude. You're gonna keep that tension that next year is going to be the year. And we've been saying that for 5 years, but next year is the year. But you're always going to have that in you, and really find a good partner. I was lucky enough to work with Omar. My partner was a roommate with Mary, my partner, with everything I do outside of the harbor. But you need someone with you. As Heather mentioned, you'll have some strength, but you won't have it on another side. If you weren't able to learn them, you're going to be missing what you're doing. So find that. And again, always go to your banker early at the time. And if you didn't like your banker, go to another banker. Never give up. I always tell people, always knock on different doors. Don't always limit yourself that, oh, I don't think I got the best advice here. And and the banker is always working for you. When we work for Scotiabank in small business, what we did for a living was to give you money. Our goal was always to give you money. Our goal is not to tell you, sorry, we don't want to give you money. But again, keep that and knock on doors, knock as many doors as you can, and bring that dream of owning a business to reality.
That's great. Well, maybe BDC. There we go. Yeah, thank you. And maybe BDC can provide loans for raincoats next year. So, okay. And Heather, over to you. Any sort of parting thoughts and advice?
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, it's funny. You reminded me too. You forget it's such a traumatic time opening a business, but I think lending, and I think we were going all different places to get money. And I think one night we actually sat down and we wrote a handwritten letter to the president of RBC Bank because they had this small business loan initiative that we felt we were really qualified for, and we weren't really getting much traction on it. And we wrote that to him, and he wrote us back, and we got the loan. Yeah, so it's kind of a fun story. Anyway, yeah, you do have to use all of the resources that you have. But I think I because this talk was about growth, we do get a lot of questions about over the years, why didn't you open another restaurant? Or are you going to open another obladi over in Dartmouth or something? And I guess I did think about that a little bit, and I just wanted to sort of share too that it is possible to stay small and grow and to open and develop other revenue streams for yourself. Because as Ossama was mentioning, there are so many ups and downs, so many hidden surprises that could take out your main sort of line of revenue out from under you very quickly. And so one of the things that we've done at Obladi is, we haven't opened another uh, building. We haven't added more seats, but we offer 5-week wine classes. We have an education program. That's one arm of the business. We have the restaurant itself. We have a very popular gift box program that I talked about. We do corporate events as well, and music once a week, which is something. So I think diversification is important, and utilizing the resources and the skill set you have to grow your business inside and stay small if that's what you want to do.
That's great. That's good insight. And when does the next 5-week course start?
We're putting out the 2024 course calendar shortly.
All right, 2024 course calendar now. Okay, perfect. That's great. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate your insights and your thoughts. Sorry, I've got to get to my last page. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ossama, Heather, and of course, Russ, for all of your time today. Thank you again to our sponsors, presenting sponsor BDC, Luncheon partner, the Department of Labor Skills and Immigration, the advocate partner, Jelly Digital Marketing and PR, and our small business resource partner, Advocate Printing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And remember, so downstairs, it is downstairs. I don't know what the name of the room is. Commons. So the downstairs, I think it used to be a bar. Anyway, downstairs is a room called the Commons, and we're going to do another great session with Wendy Brookhouse, the Ultimate Wealth Amplifier. That sounds pretty good. And founder of Black Star Wealth. Learn from an info session presented by Scotiabank and have the chance to win 2 tickets to our 2024 Halifax Business Awards, which is about a $500 value. And I'll even throw in a bottle of wine. We'll have to pay for it at the convention center, and we'll get Heather to advise us on what the bottle of wine should be. Maybe that's what we'll do. So thank you very much, everybody, and I hope to see many of you downstairs in just a few minutes. Thanks, everybody.